Hurricane Elena was supposed to miss San Antonio by 200 miles, but at 3:47 a.m., the storm changed course and turned the Walmart parking lot into a raging river. That's when overnight stalker Jake Martinez realized his quiet retirement from the Air Force was about to end, and his pararescue training would either save his trapped coworkers or watch them drown. Welcome to Secret Human Stories. Before I tell you this incredible story of hidden military expertise and life-saving rescue operations during a natural disaster, tell me in the comments if you or anyone in your family or circle of friends has military service background, and if so, what branch or role they served in. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be told, hit that subscribe button. Because sometimes the most skilled rescuers are stocking shelves at midnight, waiting for the moment when their training can save lives that conventional emergency services can't reach. Jake Martinez was exactly what Walmart Supercenter store number 4739 needed in an overnight stalker. At 31, he was dependable, efficient, and completely unremarkable to the customers and coworkers who encountered him during the 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift. For 18 months, he'd maintained inventory with quiet competence, unloading delivery trucks, restocking shelves, and ensuring that the massive retail operation was ready for the next day's customers. The night shift team appreciated Jake's unusual physical capabilities and his ability to handle the most demanding aspects of overnight stocking work. While other employees struggled with heavy merchandise or complex inventory systems, Jake seemed to have unlimited endurance and an almost mechanical precision in organizing products and managing warehouse operations. Store management valued Jake's reliability and his ability to work independently without supervision. His productivity metrics were exceptional, his attendance record was perfect, and his calm demeanor provided stability during the chaotic restocking operations that defined overnight retail work in one of San Antonio's busiest Walmart locations. But there was something about Jake Martinez that nobody at Walmart could have imagined. The steady hands that arranged products on shelves had once controlled parachute descents into combat zones to rescue downed aircrew members. The physical endurance he used for stocking inventory had been developed during 6 years of the most physically demanding military training in the United States Air Force. From 2015 to 2021, Staff Sergeant Jake Martinez had served with the 58th Rescue Squadron, specializing in personnel recovery operations in Afghanistan, Iraq, and other classified locations around the world. For 6 years, he'd operated as an Air Force Pararescue Jumper, a guardian angel whose mission was locating, treating, and extracting American military personnel from situations where conventional rescue operations were impossible. Jake's military record was extraordinary even among pararescue jumpers. 89 successful personnel recovery missions, 134 lives saved under combat conditions, and a reputation among special operations forces as someone who could reach survivors that other rescue teams couldn't extract. He'd earned the Air Force Cross, 3 Bronze Stars with Combat V, and the Pararescue Badge that identified him as one of fewer than 500 active Air Force personnel qualified for the most dangerous rescue operations. But Jake's specialty hadn't been routine personnel recovery. His unique expertise was what pararescue teams call adverse weather extraction, conducting rescue operations during extreme weather conditions that grounded conventional aircraft and prevented normal emergency response. These missions required advanced survival skills, the ability to operate specialized rescue equipment in impossible conditions, and the mental toughness to save lives when environmental factors created deadly challenges for both rescuers and survivors. The psychological demands of combat rescue were overwhelming. Every person Jake saved represented someone's son, daughter, spouse, or parent whose survival depended entirely on his ability to reach them, provide medical treatment, and extract them from hostile environments. The responsibility was constant, the physical demands extreme, and the emotional cost of losing people despite heroic rescue attempts had accumulated over 6 years of deployment. Jake's transition out of military service in 2021 had been difficult. PTSD, survivor's guilt from aircrew members he couldn't save, and the challenge of finding civilian work that utilized his rescue skills without triggering combat-related stress responses had led him to seek employment in predictable environments where his hypervigilance could be managed without constant crisis intervention. Overnight stocking work provided the perfect balance, a controlled environment with routine physical demands, but enough independence and problem-solving challenges to keep his military-trained mind engaged without the life-or-death pressure that had defined his pararescue service. For 18 months, Jake had convinced himself that his rescue skills were artifacts of military service that had no place in civilian retail work. But some training never truly retires, especially when it involves saving lives in extreme conditions that overwhelm normal emergency response capabilities. And on Thursday night, September 14, 2023, during what should have been a routine inventory shift, those skills would prove that some expertise is too valuable to remain hidden when innocent lives are threatened by natural disasters. The night had started normally for the overnight crew at Walmart Supercenter number 4739. Jake was conducting his regular stocking routine in the sporting goods and automotive sections, methodically organizing merchandise and preparing the store for the next day's customers. The weather forecast had mentioned Hurricane Elena, but meteorologists predicted the storm would remain offshore and pass San Antonio without significant impact. At 2:30 a.m., the first weather alerts began indicating that Hurricane Elena was strengthening faster than predicted and had changed course toward the Texas coast. By 3:15 a.m., the National Weather Service was issuing flash flood warnings for Bexar County, with rainfall rates exceeding 4 inches per hour and wind speeds approaching hurricane force. Jake was restocking automotive supplies when the store's emergency radio system activated with the alert that would change everything: flash flood emergency now in effect for San Antonio metropolitan area. Immediate evacuation recommended for all low-lying areas. Seek higher ground immediately. Through the store's windows, Jake could see that the Walmart parking lot was already accumulating standing water, and the drainage systems were becoming overwhelmed by rainfall that exceeded their design capacity. His pararescue training activated automatically. 6 years of adverse weather operations had conditioned him to assess emergency situations and identify critical points where rescue expertise could prevent casualties. The first concern was the store's location. Walmart number 4739 was situated in a natural flood plain that channeled storm water from the surrounding urban area, creating conditions where flash flooding could trap people inside buildings while making conventional emergency evacuation impossible. The second problem was more immediate. 5 other overnight employees were scattered throughout the massive store, and the standard emergency procedures focused on customer evacuation rather than employee extraction during natural disasters. If the flooding continued at current rates, the building could become surrounded by impassable water within 30 minutes. Jake's assessment was interrupted by store manager Carol Hendricks, who had been monitoring the weather situation and was beginning to realize that her overnight team faced a genuine emergency. "Jake, we need to start evacuation procedures. The parking lot is flooding faster than I've ever seen." Jake moved to the front of the store where he could observe the developing flood conditions. What he saw confirmed his worst assessment: the parking lot was transforming into a lake, with water depths already exceeding 2 feet and rising rapidly. The main access roads were becoming impassable, and emergency vehicles would be unable to reach the store if conditions continued deteriorating. "Carol, we have maybe 20 minutes before this building becomes an island," Jake informed her with the kind of calm authority that his pararescue training had developed for communicating critical information during crisis situations. "Standard evacuation won't work. We need to implement emergency shelter protocols." Carol Hendricks had managed retail operations for 12 years, but she'd never encountered a situation where her store could become completely isolated by flood water. "Jake, what are you talking about? We just need to get everyone out to their cars." "Ma'am, look at the parking lot. Those cars are going to be underwater within the hour. We need to move to the highest point in the building and prepare for extended emergency shelter until rescue services can reach us." Jake's assessment proved accurate faster than anyone expected. At 3:47 a.m., Hurricane Elena's eye wall made direct contact with San Antonio, bringing sustained winds of 95 miles per hour and rainfall rates exceeding 6 inches per hour. The parking lot became a raging river, the power failed, and Walmart number 4739 was transformed from a retail store into an island surrounded by deadly flood water. Emergency lighting revealed the full scope of their situation: 6 employees trapped in a building surrounded by flood water that was rising at approximately 4 inches every 15 minutes. The main electrical systems had failed, the telephone lines were down, and conventional emergency services would be unable to reach them until the flood water receded. Jake faced the decision he'd hoped never to confront in civilian life. He could follow standard emergency procedures and hope that rescue services could eventually reach them, or he could reveal his pararescue background and take command of a survival situation that required specialized training in adverse weather rescue operations. The decision point came when Jake realized that Sandra Morales, a 19-year-old part-time employee, was showing signs of panic that could escalate into life-threatening hysteria if not managed immediately. His pararescue medical training identified the physiological indicators of acute stress response that could lead to dangerous decision-making. "Everyone listen carefully," Jake announced with a command presence that 6 years of combat rescue had developed. "I'm Staff Sergeant Jake Martinez, Air Force Pararescue, retired. I specialize in adverse weather survival and personnel extraction. We're going to get through this, but I need everyone to follow my instructions exactly." The overnight crew, Carol Hendricks, Sandra Morales, Mike Thompson, Lisa Chen, and Robert Williams, looked at Jake with confusion and relief. The quiet stalker who organized inventory had suddenly become someone speaking with unmistakable military authority and offering expertise they desperately needed. Jake immediately began implementing survival protocols developed for aircrew members stranded in hostile environments. "Mike and Robert, I need you to locate all available food and water supplies and establish a resource inventory. Lisa, find first aid supplies and any materials we can use for emergency signaling. Sandra, help me identify the highest structural points in this building." Jake's transformation from retail worker to rescue operations commander was complete. Using principles learned during pararescue training, he converted Walmart number 4739 into a survival shelter capable of sustaining 6 people through an extended emergency while maintaining communication capabilities for eventual rescue coordination. The sporting goods section provided essential survival equipment, emergency radios, flashlights, battery supplies, and camping gear. The pharmacy section offered first aid materials and medications for managing stress-related medical issues. The grocery section provided food and water supplies sufficient for several days of emergency shelter. But Jake's greatest contribution wasn't survival resource management, it was his ability to maintain team cohesion and prevent panic during a life-threatening situation that could have resulted in fatal decision-making. His pararescue training had taught him that survival psychology was as important as survival techniques. "Carol, you're my communications coordinator," Jake assigned. "Monitor emergency radio channels and maintain contact with rescue services when communication becomes possible. Sandra, your medical support, monitor everyone's physical and mental condition and report any concerns immediately." The flood water continued rising for 4 hours, reaching a maximum depth of 7 feet around the building before beginning to recede. During that time, Jake maintained his team's morale, coordinated their survival activities, and prepared for eventual rescue evacuation using techniques developed for combat personnel recovery operations. At 8:30 a.m., San Antonio Fire Department rescue boats reached Walmart number 4739 and found 6 employees who had survived Hurricane Elena's direct impact through organized emergency shelter procedures. The rescue team leader, Captain Maria Rodriguez, immediately recognized the professional quality of their survival organization. "Who was in charge of your emergency response?" Captain Rodriguez asked as she coordinated the evacuation. "Jake Martinez," Carol Hendricks replied. "He's Air Force Pararescue. He saved all our lives." Captain Rodriguez, a 20-year veteran of emergency rescue operations, was impressed by the survival shelter that Jake had organized. "Staff Sergeant Martinez, your emergency protocols and team leadership prevented what could have been multiple casualties. Outstanding work." Jake's response reflected the complexity of transitioning from military rescue operations to civilian emergency response. "Captain, I just used training the Air Force gave me to keep people alive until you could reach us. Same mission, different environment. The post-incident investigation revealed that Jake's survival leadership had prevented multiple potential fatalities during Hurricane Elena's direct impact on San Antonio. His ability to organize emergency shelter, manage survival resources, and maintain team cohesion had created the difference between successful survival and potential tragedy. 2 weeks after the hurricane, Jake received a phone call from Chief Master Sergeant David Kim, his former supervisor with the 58th Rescue Squadron. Staff Sergeant Martinez, I heard about San Antonio. You saved civilian lives using skills we taught you to rescue aircrew. I'm proud of you, guardian angel. Jake's response helped him understand that his pararescue service hadn't ended with his military discharge. It had evolved into protecting civilian lives in emergency situations where his specialized training could prevent casualties that conventional emergency services couldn't reach. Chief, I never thought I'd use pararescue skills in a Walmart. But when I saw those people in danger, I couldn't just stock shelves and hope someone else would save them. Jake, that's exactly what guardian angels do. We show up when people need saving, regardless of the environment. You honored the pararescue motto, these things we do, that others may live. 6 months later, Jake received a letter from Sandra Morales, the young employee whose panic he had managed during the hurricane. Mr. Martinez, she wrote, I want you to know that I'm starting college this fall to study emergency management because of what you taught me during the storm. You showed me that ordinary people can do extraordinary things when lives are at stake. Sandra's letter helped Jake realize that his transition from military to civilian life wasn't about abandoning his rescue skills, it was about using them to create safety in civilian communities where his expertise could prevent tragedies during natural disasters. Today, Jake Martinez works as Emergency Preparedness Coordinator for Walmart's South Texas region, where he develops disaster response protocols and trains retail employees in emergency survival techniques. He still works night shifts occasionally, but now he does it with the knowledge that his pararescue training serves an important civilian purpose. His Walmart coworkers now understand exactly who Jake is and what he's capable of. They respect his choice to use his military rescue skills for civilian protection, and they appreciate having someone whose pararescue background provides emergency capabilities that standard retail safety procedures cannot match. Jake's story teaches us that military rescue training doesn't disappear when veterans enter civilian careers, it waits for moments when American communities need the kind of expertise that only combat rescue operations can provide. The Pararescue Jumper who once saved air crew members in Afghanistan found a way to continue that mission in civilian retail work, using his skills to protect coworkers instead of fellow service members. Sometimes rescue comes from helicopters extracting wounded soldiers from combat zones. Sometimes it comes from organizing survival shelter during natural disasters. Sometimes it comes from using military training to keep civilian teams alive when conventional emergency services can't reach them. Jake Martinez learned to provide all three forms of life-saving service. The overnight stalker who used to be a guardian angel became the emergency coordinator who still saves lives when natural disasters overwhelm. Civilian emergency response and military-trained expertise can mean the difference between survival and tragedy. His hands never forgot how to rescue, whether they were controlling parachute descents or organizing emergency supplies. Jake Martinez proved that pararescue training creates lifelong guardians who continue their mission of saving lives in whatever environment their skills are needed, honoring both their military service and their commitment to civilian communities where "these things we do, that others may live" continues in retail stores during hurricanes.